Hey guys, real quick, I want to apologize for some sound issues we had during the show. Hopefully it's not too distracting. It's not all the way through the episode, it's just in certain spots. But hope you guys enjoy the show. Keep creeping.
Welcome back to the True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
What's up, Creepus? How's everybody doing? Ready for a free episode? You freeload us? But now I think things are settling down. I know we've been saying this for a while, but they really are. Like, I'm finally fully moved into my new place.
Are you? How's that going? Going good?
It's awesome. Yeah, it's so awesome living in a house, you know?
Yeah, houses are great, dude.
It's underrated.
Houses are great. It's underrated house living.
Yeah. As opposed to living in a fifth wheel trailer.
Right,
with
exactly.
a family. It's so much better. So.
Yeah. You got a studio set up there?
No, I'm literally recording in my bedroom right now. Last week,
that's cool.
Yeah, what was it, 2 weeks ago when we recorded, I was recording on my couch. Figured I'd try the bedroom this time. I think it has a little better acoustics in here. Smaller room with more stuff in it, so.
Yeah, that is better. That's better acoustics for podcasting. You're right. Absolutely no acoustics. Just want it to be like a closet. Yeah.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, we have a bit of an elk problem, though. It's full on like winter up here now. We have snow on the ground, and there's literally elk like in our yard every night and every morning because we have horses. So they're like trying to eat my wife's horse's hay, and it's just man.
At first I was about to be
freeloaders,
like, who frickety who, but
talk about freeloaders. Like we actually named one of these elk Frida the freeloader because she's like usually they're in herds. She's alone every day and like just eating all our shit.
She's just over there. Hey, I appreciate y'all. I really appreciate y'all leaving this this hay so close to the edge of the fence.
Yeah.
Y'all looking out.
Yeah. Yesterday, my wife went and shooed her out of here, and she like ran down the hill at our property and like looked back up with a big mouthful of hay. It was like, yeah, that's right, bitch. Like, damn, this is
I'll
different.
take this to go.
This is different than living in Vegas by far. So.
Hey man, you're living it up. My dog took off after a buck the other day when we were walking in the woods.
Hell yeah.
Nothing I could do to stop him. He was like, "Oh, that's the biggest damn dog I ever seen. I'm gonna fuck him up." Took off after him. Not a good idea. But luckily the buck took off, so all is well. He lives another day.
Yeah. Yeah. What's his name again? I always forget.
Monroe.
Yeah, Monroe was like, the buck stops here, bitch.
Yeah, the buck stops here. Nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, enough with the dad jokes. You guys ready to get into this? We figured we'd do a topical episode this time. We've been wanting to, get on kind of some current stuff, and this documentary series just hit. This docu-series just hit Netflix, and the preview came on as soon as I turned on my Netflix last week, and I was like,
of course
it
did.
Sucked
it
in.
Knows you.
Got sucked right into it, and then I was talking to Michael, and I was like, hey, maybe we should do this. He's like, dude, I was thinking the same thing. We should definitely do that. And I guess someone also suggested it. And so, yeah, it's very interesting. It's got Nazis in World War II and missing, potentially somebody who was mistakenly identified. And it's a curious case of whodunit. It reminds me a lot of the Staircase docuseries, actually. It's everything you want in a true crime series.
Right.
You're sitting there.
There's a lot of back and forth. It's like one episode, you're like, oh, well, yep,
he did it. That's that
and
motherfucker.
The next episode, you're like, well,
definitely not him.
Can't convict him now. Nope, didn't do it.
Yep.
Oh, yep, definitely did it.
Yep.
Definitely did it. So get ready for this seesaw.
Right. So let's do it.
Hey guys, for the intro this week, I decided to play you guys a clip from an interview done by WKYC Studios out of Cleveland, Ohio. It's WKYC.com. This is an interview done with John Demjanjuk's son, John Demjanjuk Jr., and he's expressing his opinions of the Netflix documentary, and I thought it was only fair to play. So, without further ado.
Well, look, I'm glad that the story is being told. It's a matter of getting it right, but that just requires an understanding of things that are readily available even on the internet. If anybody wants to Google Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals Demjanjuk or Israeli Supreme Court decision, they can find the proof of what was omitted from the documentary. But and we're going to do something to ensure that the public is aware of these things. But from my perspective, people that have followed the case knew my dad. They knew he wasn't that guy. We're a good family. He was a good person. And in the end of the day, he had 3 criminal proceedings that took place over the years, and he won them all. The extradition that was criminal here in the United States was overturned by a decision people in Israel. And when he died in Germany, the lower court decision was annulled, and he died presumed innocent. So we won, and nobody can ever change that. Unfortunately, the Netflix documentary did not complete that picture. They omitted critical pieces of evidence that the viewers should have in order to understand better that the things that Yoram Sheftel was saying about the case were actually based in hard evidence.
All right, our case this week involves a man by the name of John Demjanjuk. He was a Ukrainian-born man, born in a unfortunate time, who was a product of the World War II situation, got drugged into that.
I like how you're being very careful here.
I'm trying not to give too much away. But
right, okay.
Where we'll pick this up is he is a man who has immigrated to America and basically took over a whole new life there after having a tumultuous time over in Europe during the World War. And he just basically set out on a normal, quiet life, got a family, got a job at the Ford factory, which many Ukrainian immigrants did. And
living the American dream.
Yeah, living the American dream. Had a 30-year career living at the Ford factory, which, man, they showed some footage of that factory.
Dude, that's no joke work right there.
Right? That was some hard
head down,
living, bro.
Nose to the grindstone work all day in, day out.
Yeah, I mean, you're just moving around like molten fucking metal and like car frames and like I bet he had some strong hands. Let's put it that way.
That dude was a strong dude, no doubt in my mind. He done some shit.
Yeah, so he had a quiet 30-year career at the Ford factory and had a nice little suburb home and nice little family. And one day in the mid '80s, he basically gets a knock at his door, and the world is basically led to believe that he is Ivan the Terrible, who was a Ukrainian born person who was brought in by the Germans and basically had to work as a guard at the famous Treblinka concentration camp.
Right.
And supposedly this man...
As a gas chamber guard.
As a gas chamber guard. And supposedly this man was one of the worst human beings in history. Ivan the Terrible was known by surviving Jews of the Holocaust as basically this hellish, torturous man who not only would... send all millions of people to the gas chamber, but he was basically forcing them in there by spear point and relished in it. And we have a lot of details of this Ivan the Terrible character, what he had done that we'll get into. But yeah, he is. It's basically a shock to everyone in the community because he's living in the Cleveland suburb of Seven Hills, which is a nice, quiet community. Nothing's ever gone on there, and even his grandson. When he was talking in this documentary we watched called the Devil Next Door, which is phenomenal. We alluded to it at the beginning of this episode. It's on Netflix right now. The Devil Next Door. They talked to his grandson a lot in it, and he was saying how the only reason you would ever even hear of Seven Hills is because of my grandfather. And
That's
so
right.
all the neighbors, the Ford factory, everyone is just shocked to hear that this guy is supposedly Ivan the Terrible, and the government
But isn't that exactly where you would want to go if you were a Nazi?
Yeah, exactly. The quiet suburb
quiet,
of Cleveland.
White suburb.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good hiding place.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Because even working at the Ford factory is a great place to kind of disappear. You just become another grunt worker in there, and there's not a lot of interaction that goes on.
Well, and I think he also kind of fell into the Ford factory and that community and stuff because there was a very high Ukrainian population there as well.
Yes, and there was a big Ukrainian church that he was there every Sunday.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
so he felt a little more at home there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, many of the Ukrainian immigrants during the war came over to America settled in Seven Hills for whatever reason they chose that place. So this whole community is just in shock that Ivan the Terrible has been living next door to them, and they say he's the sweetest man, like he's a nice, quiet, gentle man, great family man, great to his kids and his grandkids, and retired and just living a quiet life. And they're almost like, why do this to him? But then if you read up on Ivan the Terrible, if he really is Ivan the Terrible, you have to do this to him.
You have
absolutely have to because
you have an obligation to humanity.
Essentially, like Hitler's living next door. Like he was that level of evil. This Ivan the Terrible.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. In 1985, a group of Holocaust survivors identified Demjanjuk as Ivan the Terrible, the sadistic Nazi camp death guard who tortured men, women, children, and babies before pushing them into the gas chamber at Nazi German Treblinka camp in occupied Poland. Yeah, so in Poland were several of these terrible concentration camps. Sobibor was another one. And yeah, they go over a lot of this stuff, and there's a lot of footage in the docuseries as well. I'm sure most of you guys just going through school have seen footage of the Holocaust, the terrible images that brings. But it is important it's important to see, like we've talked about in the past. Sometimes seeing crime scene photos brings levity to it.
Is.
You gotta.
It is, because time can heal wounds. Sometimes wounds don't need to be healed
Yeah.
up. We need to remember those wounds.
I think
that's
every year
on
on 9/11 you should watch footage from that day just to be reminded of how terrible it was, and that just because time has gone by doesn't mean that it didn't happen or that it's any less now, So
Right.
yeah, so the documentary The Devil Next Door shows a small but clear headshot of Demjanjuk, which set in the motion the investigation against him in 1985. So as America, we couldn't actually persecute him for what he had done over there. It was out of our jurisdiction. It was in another country, and it was done to another race of people. And so basically the most that America could do once they discovered who he was is deport him.
Deport him back to
Deport
Germany.
him to Jerusalem. Deport him to Jerusalem, where the people that he had done this to could put a trial on for him and either, convict him, which would mean certain death because of what he had done to their people, or discover that it wasn't him. And so, his name had been on a list of war criminals after he immigrated to the U.S., and a group of Holocaust survivors identified Demjanjuk's image from a lineup after the image was sent over from the KGB in the 1980s. Now, that's the one thing that we'll have to get into, is that Russia was the one that made us aware of him hiding out in our country, and this was Cold War times in the 80s, and it's kind of
Did
like...
the Soviets lie, though? I mean, come on, dude.
Dude, no, they're as honest as they come when it comes to foreign relations and everything, right? Like, they only tell America the truth. So.
Exactly. Like, they're honest with us.
Right. They're our best friends.
Right.
They're our good red friends over there.
That's right.
So this is what's crazy, though, is supposedly we get basically like a notebook, right, with a bunch of pictures from ID cards of Nazi guards and whatnot that survived the war and made it out of Germany and stuff. And we get like this notebook filled with all these pictures of people who supposedly are hiding out in America, who are Nazi sympathizers and also were Nazis themselves. And so we have our intel and stuff sit down with Holocaust survivors that are in America now, and they aren't expecting this, but they keep pointing at the same picture, and it's of this John Demjanjuk, and they're saying that was Ivan from Treblinka. He was the gas chamber guard. He was Ivan the Terrible, and by this time, Ivan the Terrible is well known. Everyone, they're blown away because they didn't realize what they had sitting there. They were expecting he was just kind of in the lineup as like a secondary. There was another guy next to him. I forget who it was, but was more well known as Ivan the Terrible that they were expecting to get. But they wanted to get as many as they could. But they were blown away by time after time. All of these Holocaust survivors were the first person they would go to was him. That's Ivan. And so
it did start to that's how it really picked up steam.
Snowballed
fast.
From there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So born in we'll go into his past through his life. John Demjanjuk. He was born in the Ukraine on April 3rd of 1920. He shares birthday with Eddie Murphy, Alec Baldwin, and Amanda Bynes. Quite a group.
Wow, that's
a funny group, right? That's a really funny group.
That is a funny group. All three of them.
On the verge of crazy with all three of them, I would say. Amanda Bynes, for sure.
In a good way.
A little bit crazy.
Real quick, though, super quick side tangent, everybody. I'm so sorry. But Eddie Murphy in that Comedians in Cars with Coffee with Jerry Seinfeld. Have you watched that episode?
Right? I did watch that episode.
He was interesting, but not crazy. He was
crazy.
He just lives like a boring life. He's
boring.
I
would say boring.
When he was saying that stuff, I totally relate to that, though. Like, I really appreciate days where I'm just like sitting, like watching my kids do stuff.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm taking it in at the most optimal rate. You know what I mean? Like I'm taking in this memory. This is something I'm really trying to process.
Another thing I took from him on that episode was how good he looked, how young he looked. That must be that stress-free lifestyle that he's living now. I was blown
he
away
looks
that
great,
he's as
man.
old as he is. He's got, what is he, like 60 at least?
At
I mean,
least,
he was
yeah.
famous as fuck during the time that this episode we're talking about in the mid 80s. That's when, like the height of his fame was in the
Right.
80s, and that was, you're talking 30 something years ago now, and he looks like he could be in his 30s still. That's what's crazy.
He does. He looks great, man.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was one of my favorite episodes of Comedians in Cars Getting. Great show.
Absolutely.
Also on Netflix. So we're just
That's right.
basically doing a big Netflix ad read today.
Okay. Yeah, because they need more money and more
Right.
people. And things.
Yeah, so he was born in the Ukraine in 1920. He was raised in impoverished conditions, and along with his family endured an engineered famine in the 1930s that killed millions of Ukrainians. He was drafted into the Soviet Army around 1940, the year before the Nazi-Soviet non-aggression pact disintegrated. He was captured by the Nazis in 1942 after being wounded while fighting. That's what's crazy, is that he was actually a POW captured by the Nazis and ends up being one of the most famous Nazis, supposedly.
Yeah, that's insane. That's a way to rise through the ranks there.
Yeah, I guess you just kind of switch sides and become their best player.
Yeah. God.
The question that became the focus of the trials decades later was what he did for the 3 years following 1942 after being captured by the Nazis. Various pieces of conflicting evidence placed Demjanjuk in different concentration camps during the final years of the war. He maintained until his death that he was a prisoner at a labor camp and was forced to work as a guard. He ended up joining the army of General Andrei Vlasov, who consisted of mostly Ukrainian soldiers who sided with the Nazis in an effort to overthrow the Soviet Union. And so, yeah, when he goes under Vlasov, I think that's where these Ukrainians were trained specifically for death camps. They were trained in killing, body disposal, all of the things that would be valuable at a concentration camp during this time. Very dark and twisted training that they received. And I think in such a, like we mentioned, tumultuous time that he was growing up in this time and place, going through the famine and then being a Russian soldier and then being captured by the Nazis and being trained by the Nazis in this.
Right. This is one thing that you can pin to the board. You know what I'm saying? Like, as we're moving along, this story gets a lot of like, oh, here's some evidence. Oh, it's debunked. Here's some evidence. But this is one thing, he did have that training.
Yeah.
That's confirmed. He had that training.
He was, and as we learn more and more going through this docuseries and by studying him, you learn that he was at Sobibor. And if he was at Sobibor, like, there's just too much evidence that he was there.
If you're at Sobibor alone, let's say he didn't go anywhere else.
If you're at Sobibor and you survived and you weren't a Jew, like, you were there, you were there as a guard and you were killing Jews.
People. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
He then volunteered to transfer to Troninki concentration camp, where he undertook. That's where he undertook the special training to become a guard at extermination camps. Was at Troninki.
Okay. Right.
Demjanjuk was a guard at Sobibor, as we had mentioned, in occupied Poland from March to September of 1943, where he was found to have helped murder 28,000 Jews by gassing them to death with exhaust fumes. The former SS guard was complicit in herding thousands of terrified new arrivals down a concentration walkway called the Road to Heaven. Just
yikes.
I mean,
it's not only physical, it's mental. Like, these guards were also trained to beat these people down. Yeah. You know what I mean? In a mental capacity as well. They relished in this opportunity. I know we said it earlier, but it's pretty obvious in some of the old footage, and what they did is above and beyond.
The Holocaust to me is the glaring thing of history that I still can't even wrap my head around. Like, I've listened to the Mongol series, the Hardcore History Dan Carlin did, and some of that is just hard to believe.
It's because it's so recent, dude.
But the Holocaust is just it doesn't even make sense in my mind. I just think about it, I'm just like 6 million people, over 6 million people, like kids, children, like I just cannot believe
because we like to think that we're evolved past that sort of genocide. But then when that reverts back, it's scary. But we're primal beings, man.
Yeah, it was literally one generation ago. There's still people alive there's still people around.
Absolutely. There's people trying to do that now.
I was at I was at the Golden Knights' most recent home game against the Sharks, and they had a World War II veteran at the game. They put him on the Jumbotron, and he's waving. I'm like, holy shit. The stuff this guy's seen, you know? Like, that's his generation. He was around during the Holocaust.
Yep.
That's how recent it was that, you know, an entire race of people was almost exterminated. Just absurd. Just to even use that word is gross to me, though, exterminate. Like, they use that all the time when they talk about the Holocaust, but they're human beings, you know? They're not insects. Like, it's just a creepy word to even use.
I know, man. And like I said, you want to feel like we're civilized past that. We're evolved past that type of cruelty.
Yeah. Following the war, Demjanjuk went to a displaced persons camp. With his wife, he immigrated to the U.S. in 1952 and settled in Cleveland, where he became a naturalized citizen in 1958 and worked at the Ford Motor Plant until his retirement about 30 years later. That's one thing that at the end of the documentary, they had like this moment where they basically were like, this is more common than you think. There's way more former Nazis in the U.S. than people like to believe, because we basically let them in with open arms because they were anti-communist.
Anti-communist.
And our biggest fear was Russia at the time during the Cold War. And so we were like, we'll kind of look the other way with the stuff you did as a Nazi guard, and we'll let you in. And also, if you're a German Nazi scientist, even more, like, we're going to try and recruit you over here, let alone, like, it's okay, we'll let you in. No, like, we are actively trying to get you. Some of our best rocket scientists and stuff were former Nazis.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a hard truth, dude, but it's reality.
So in the city's Ukrainian American community, very tight-knit, as footage in The Devil Next Door shows, he was by all accounts known as a church-going family man. However, the facade started to crumble in the late 1970s when the U.S. government announced it had evidence that he'd served as concentration camp guard and began the process of revoking his citizenship, alleging that he had lied on immigration forms to hide his actions during World War II. And so, I think what he had done, that's what the part that blew me away later on in the docuseries, like episode 4 or whatever, when the KGB released, they got the documents from the KGB after the Berlin Wall fell and everything. And they were saying all the guards that were killed over there that had made their last statements and said that Ivan the Terrible was that other name that was actually his maiden name. When they looked into it, that blew me away too. I'm like, that makes it even look more like he's him.
Yeah.
Like, of course he would use his maiden name over there.
Machat, it was like,
yeah, we'll get to it. It's in the
it's
in the crime line. I gotta try and
I can't remember
find it, but
yeah, that was too much of a coincidence for me, dude. When that evidence came out, I was like, sold.
But we'll have to talk at the end whether we actually think he was Ivan the Terrible. I mean, I think it's clear he did some bad stuff, and he was, definitely a guard at concentration camps. But whether he was Ivan the Terrible or not, we'll have to make that judgment at the end of this for you guys.
Okay. Looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Yeah. So officials at the U.S. Department of Justice's Office of Special Investigations, which pursued such crimes, said they had obtained evidence alleging that Demjanjuk was not just any Nazi prison guard, but in fact one of the most notorious gas chamber operators at the Treblinka concentration camp, whose sadistic cruelty earned him the nickname Ivan the Terrible. Which, if you look up Ivan the Terrible, there's actually like a Russian. I don't know, at the time, the 1500s, king or whatever he was, is like an evil man as well. So they must have taken that and put that on him.
Yeah, that's what I thought someone was suggesting when they were suggesting Ivan the Terrible. But when I Googled it, it came up the documentary, and I was like, oh, that's probably what they're talking about.
Yeah. Demjanjuk was denaturalized as a U.S. citizen in 1981 and extradited to Israel for a high-profile, heart-rendering trial in which multiple survivors of Treblinka identified Demjanjuk as Ivan the Terrible. And that's what this docuseries consists of. The bulk of it is the trials against him. Most of it over in Israel, and then there was also another one in Germany, which we'll get to. But it was quite the roller coaster ride. He didn't really get a trial in America because...
Quite the show, too.
Yeah.
So dramatic.
In America, basically, a judge just had to decide whether he was worth extraditing to face trial, which they quickly decided he was after the OSI's findings and everything. And so, and his family was just dumbfounded. They were saying there's no way he could be this man. his family stood by him to the end, saying, you know, like, I know my father, I know my grandfather, he's a gentle, kind man, and we've read up on Ivan the Terrible, and there's just no possible way that he's the same man as the man we know. And of course, we've seen that time and time again. Like sociopaths, there's one of my favorite lines from that, I think, was from his former supervisor at Ford. Do you remember that?
Right.
He was saying, like, you can live among a sociopath and you won't know it until they eat you. I was just like, holy fuck. That's so true.
Yeah, I do remember
That's
that.
so true.
I was like, it's a weird way of saying it, but yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's like the whole time I'm looking in his eyes and I just didn't trust him. I felt like he was very cold, right? Like you look and he's just like, and there's times in the trial.
All you have to,
and it could have been the editing. Sorry, go ahead. Say what you're saying.
I was just going to say, all you have to do is watch him during the trial. When those survivors are up there, like, it brought me to tears. Like, I don't know how
it could have been editing
somebody
too.
could watch it.
It easily could have been
It could have
editing.
been
We've
editing.
seen that before
It
with
could have been
documentaries where they choose to splice in him laughing during the trial right after, like, one of the Holocaust survivors testifies and they're crying about their children being killed and stuff.
Fair enough.
They could have then cut in him laughing, and it could have been him laughing from another time. That could have been if it was a biased docuseries, but it didn't really seem to be biased. They really had people from both sides
bounced back and
constantly.
forth.
They would talk to, you know, the prosecutor,
The defense.
The Jewish prosecutor in Jerusalem. They would talk to him, and obviously he wanted to get this guy. He believed he was Ivan the Terrible, and he never had anything good to say about him. And then they would cut to Demjanjuk's defense attorney, who was quite the character and one of the best parts of the docuseries. That guy.
He's the Jewish Better Call Saul.
Right. He was
Isn't
totally
Bob Odenkirk already Jewish.
He was totally, yeah. I think he was.
Yeah, I think Bob Odenkirk is Jewish.
Yeah.
I may be wrong.
So
I don't know, but
yeah,
still funny.
He was, But to be fair, I think I actually do believe that he didn't believe he was Ivan the Terrible. I think he knew that he was I think he knew he was a Nazi guard, but I think he truly believed he wasn't Ivan the Terrible. I want to hope, I want to believe that, so that he wasn't just completely sold out for the money and, like, being Jewish. Like, that would amaze me if he was knowingly defending Ivan the Terrible for money, you know, as a Jewish man, knowing what happened to his people. That would be crazy. But that's why he was so hated over there too.
Right. But one thing I can say for him, he was in true defense lawyer lingo. He never said that he wasn't a criminal.
Right.
He just always said he's not Ivan the Terrible. He was very careful about that throughout the entire documentary, because I noticed it early on, and then I was like, how can he believe he's not Ivan at this point?
Right.
You know, and then he would always say, you know, maybe he was there. Yeah, he was definitely there. Maybe he did this, maybe he did that, but he's not this person whose crimes you were trying to pin upon him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's what a defense attorney should do. I mean, basically, if you're on trial for being this person, Ivan the Terrible,
exactly,
and
you narrow your focus to just that subject.
Exactly. And so that's someone has to defend him, and I think that's the kind of the stance he took, is like, you're saying he's Ivan the Terrible, I'm saying he's not. I'm going to defend him, and if I get him off, I'm going to feel great about it, because, you know, if I can prove he's not, then he's not. You know, but he wasn't.
I'm going to go buy a new Porsche and drive around.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see his stance if they were just saying he was a concentration camp guard, you know, a Nazi guard. Then would he have defended him as vehemently? Would he have taken the case? I don't know.
I don't think he would have took the case. That was undeniable.
Yeah.
I mean, even he said that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So yeah, that was like we said, the bulk of the docuseries was courtroom footage, which I love. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's basically what
it's very good footage though.
It is.
Oh man.
It's so intense. It's so, like, I mean, you're over. Basically, the courtroom was filled with survivors of the Holocaust over in Jerusalem. The judges even felt like they hated the guy that was, I mean, which shouldn't be the way it is, but it just seemed like the judges.
You're in Israel.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. They couldn't, I mean, ultimately,
land,
what could they do? Because they couldn't even, I mean, if they didn't show their hatred towards this man, then the whole crowd was going to, I mean, you saw what happened to the defense attorney later. Like, bad things can happen to you just walking around the streets if you're involved in this case, if you're not on the right side of it. because there's all these witnesses taking the stand who are pointing at him and saying, I was there, you are him, I remember you, I remember your face, I remember your eyes. Remember the moment where the one witness said, I want him to take his glasses off, and I'm going to walk over to him, and I want to look in his eyes, and I will tell you if he is the man. And he walked over there, and Demjanjuk tried to shake his hand, put his hand out to
shake his hand. I was like, no, he didn't.
Right?
No, he didn't.
And the man was just like, how dare you try to shake my hand? You are him. I'm looking in your eyes. You're the same man. You are Ivan the Terrible, the murderer, you murderer. You know, it was just so intense.
Right.
It's intense.
And then to play devil's advocate, his defense attorney came out with a great argument. And he said, do you really think this old man was going to walk up to him and say,
we made a mistake.
Nope, my mistake. Right. On live TV in front of 16 live channels, in front of the whole world, he's going to go, oh,
yeah, in front of your countrymen who are convinced it's him, who are convinced this man murdered their families. You're going to go up and go, oh, you know, now that I'm really getting a closer look at you, my eyes are going out, you know. It was quite a ways away.
You know what? Can I borrow your handkerchief there? Thank you. Demjanjuk gives him a handkerchief. He rubs his glasses off.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree that he had to say it was him once he made that move.
Had to.
And he had to put on a dramatic display whether he believed it was him or not.
That's right.
And to be fair, if he didn't actually think it was him, he put on a hell of an acting show. I think he actually did believe it was him, or he wanted to believe it was him. But what's crazy is that same man, his name was Rosenberg, right?
That's right.
Rosenberg, he was one of the famous witnesses from this case. What was crazy is that a big piece of evidence for the defense came out not long after that moment where he walked over to supposedly Ivan the Terrible and said, you are him, I'm looking in your eyes. They found a written work from Rosenberg at the time of the war where he was one of 70 people who escaped Treblinka in a big basically prison break. Like they basically decided, look, we're going to die here anyway. We might as well fight back and try to escape. Most of the people who tried to escape died because like the whole camp revolted, and 70 of them made it out. And supposedly during this time when he was escaping, he found Ivan the Terrible sleeping along with some other camp people. And they supposedly killed him with a spade shovel. They bashed him over the head in Rosenberg's own writings. So either he lied in his writings at following the war, or he was lying in the courtroom pointing at pointing at John Demjanjuk and saying, "You are Ivan the Terrible." There was just no way around it. He lied in one or the other. So, and I choose to believe that he was more of a dramatic man in general. And I think that he said when he was questioned on the stand about it that he wanted it would be an uplifting moment if the Jewish people found out that this evil man Ivan the Terrible was murdered by Jews. Okay. And so he he basically admitted I made the story up after about the prison break and killing Ivan the Terrible. But I believed it was him.
Because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? You know that document is going to be history. Yeah. At that time in the 1940s, there was no other. If it was written down and it was printed, hey, that's what happened, brother. Yeah. And they won that time. So why wouldn't you put your name on a document and say I killed Ivan the Terrible? Your grandkids are going to study
because
that.
Then you might 40 years later, Michael, be on trial. I mean, who could have seen that? 40 years later, you're going to be on the stand saying that this man you killed 40 years ago is sitting in front of you now. Yeah, that's ironic, isn't it?
Now you're even more notable in history. Yeah. You see what I mean? Like nothing bad could come of lying and telling that fib. Like, damn, they earned it. They were in a concentration camp, for Christ's sakes. Yep. You know what I mean? They can say whatever they want. If they, in my opinion, I bet they dipped out. Yeah. I mean, they're all naked, unarmed. You're really going to go in these tents with guards or wherever they are?
Yeah, and you really think Ivan the Terrible's going to be sleeping through all this? He's just fast asleep, and the commotion it must have caused, it must have been chaos.
He had to have had one or two nightmares about an uprising. Right. He had to have. Yeah. Well, I don't know. That dude's a sociopath.
That's true.
He's a sociopath.
Yeah. So, the courtroom was just so passionate and heated on a daily basis. Survivors coming up and being basically allowed by the court, which I thought was it was different than most trials that I've studied, in that the judges, as we said, seemed to be leaning on this is Ivan the Terrible, fuck him. Let's let every witness that wants to come up here, every surviving Holocaust member come up here and tell their entire story to the jury and to the crowd of people. And it was just, I don't know, it seemed like a lot of the times didn't help prove he was Ivan the Terrible. It was just more them the court was letting them vent, which I see absolutely why they did that. They needed it.
Yeah.
They needed this chance while they were still around, because a lot of them were they were very old. They weren't going to be around much longer. They needed this chance to, in front of the world, because the whole world was watching this trial, to tell their story. Even if a lot of times it wasn't proving this was Ivan the Terrible, this gave them a chance to tell their story, which is part of history, as we mentioned.
There was one guy that comes to mind in particular. He was an older gentleman, and the defense, in order to question his answers, they asked him like a series of questions, and one of the things they asked was, did he have any children? And he said, yes, I had 2 children that were killed at Treblinka. Mm-hmm. And he said, what are their names? And he could only remember one of their names.
That was the same man.
Dude, that broke my heart, dude.
And that was the same man. That was actually, that guy being on the stand helped the defense a bit, because he was shown to be senile a little bit, because they asked him how he basically pointed out the picture of Demjanjuk as Ivan the Terrible in America. The OSI interviewed him, and he was one of the people that pointed him out. And they said, how did you get to Florida from Poland? And he said he took a train.
Oh, yeah.
He said he took a train to Florida from Poland, which, if you understand geography even in the slightest, it makes no sense.
It's underwater train, actually, Lauren. Ho,
right.
In your face.
Yeah, right. It was one of those advanced Nazi trains that go into the ocean.
Elon Musk trains.
Right.
It's under.
Yeah. So, yeah, he didn't help the case much. There was talk that these people had gotten old, and their memory was gone, and they wanted someone to take the blame for this pain that they were dealing with, and that was a lot of the defense's case against it. And also they tried to say that the identity card that basically was the one surefire piece of evidence to prove he was Ivan the Terrible was an identity card. Right. They were saying that was a forgery done by the Russians and the KGB to try and create division in America between Ukrainian citizens and Jewish citizens of America, because both of those factions of people in America were anti-communist. Right. And so if they could create any division in America, which we talked about, Russians, totally trustworthy, right, as far as American relations. So, I mean, it makes sense that they would try and create division. That's what enemy countries do to each other. Russians were one of the best with spies and everything. And so
but some of their reasons for calling this card a fraud just didn't make much sense.
The staple holes were a little odd.
The staple hole. Well, listen. He had to bring in a picture of himself,
True.
I'm sure, to enlist.
True.
So he probably had all his paperwork stapled together.
Yeah,
and then
you're talking about the 40s.
And then they put it on his card.
Yeah, and you're talking about the 40s. So I'm sure they had one picture of him, and then you just keep reusing it for different identifications and stuff.
Exactly. That's not that far-fetched at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. So his defense attorney said that the card was a flimsy piece of evidence and that the photo appeared to have been tampered with. In 1988, however, with all the evidence considered and everything in the trial finally coming to an end, Demjanjuk was found guilty of being Ivan the Terrible, the sadistic Nazi death camp guard at Treblinka, and was sentenced to death by hanging. And so, obviously it wasn't going to happen the next day. There was going to be an appeal right away.
That's right.
Demjanjuk's attorney said there will be an appeal. I'm going to be a part of it. And some crazy stuff happens. That's where one of the twists and turns in this whole docuseries happens. Is we kind of alluded to the Berlin Wall. The Berlin Wall falls. East and West Germany. The whole thing goes down, and part of that meant that the KGB files that had been kind of locked away pertaining to John Demjanjuk / Ivan the Terrible were made accessible. And actually, his defense attorney, John Demjanjuk's defense attorney, was able to go over to Russia and work with the KGB and get his hands. He was actually faxed the files that he needed, supposedly proving that they weren't the same person, that Ivan the Terrible and John Demjanjuk, and that's where we get that other name, which ended up being his maiden name.
But here's the thing. It's like this whole entire trial, his defense attorney has done nothing but shit on Soviet Union evidence. And now you're going to the Soviet Union to get your key piece of evidence.
Right. He's saying now they're trustworthy. This is them telling the truth.
If he
Before
threw
they
that
were
on the
lying.
table, if he threw that on the table, I would immediately shove it off. I'd be like, no, that's garbage, right? That's what you told me.
Yeah.
Like, no, man.
Yeah.
Can't bring this now.
Yeah. So the Devil Next Door shows the fall of the Berlin Wall on November 9th, 1989 foreshadowed the release of a trove of once secret Soviet Union documents, including new evidence from eyewitness testimonies that suggested that Ivan the Terrible was a different man named Ivan Marchenko, which Marchenko was John Demjanjuk's mother's maiden name. And so it makes total sense if you think about it that he would use his mother's maiden name if he was working as if he was lying on documents, being trying to hedge his bets as a concentration guard. Let's say maybe the war ends not in our favor. I know I'm not going to be treated well doing what I'm doing, so let's use a different name just to kind of be able to have an escape plan, which he got away with for many years.
This dude was no idiot.
Right.
He was no idiot.
And so,
That's for sure.
Basically, these fellow Nazi guards that were executed following the war, in their last statements, they were basically asked, what they know, and they kept saying that they pointed out the picture of a man that was not the picture we know that John Demjanjuk kind of got convicted with, that picture, famous picture of him from the docuseries, but a different looking man, and they were saying that's Ivan the Terrible. His name was Ivan Marchenko. And so it basically, this was like the smoking gun evidence now that the defense had to bring for an appeal. And the most shocking part of the whole docuseries was that it actually worked. that was what blew me away.
It actually worked. He was actually freed.
Yeah.
But this picture, to be fair, these pictures are from the 40s. They're not the best quality.
To me, though, the picture they were using to say that Demjanjuk was Ivan the Terrible, and then this picture of this Ivan Marchenko, two definitely totally different people. Like even the prosecution.
Oh, the two old pictures.
Yeah, the two old pictures. They were different men. That was not the same person.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
And the Israeli Supreme Court agreed and acquitted Demjanjuk in 1993, and that caused an uproar. Man, that set Israel ablaze.
Of course,
all the people that were so happy that he was convicted. Let's just quickly bring up when he was convicted and sentenced to death. They were celebrating like you wouldn't believe in the courtroom. That was actually kind of a sad humanitarian part for me in that docuseries. Like as much as if he was Ivan the Terrible, I'm with them 100%, celebrating, clapping, all that stuff. But just not being 100% sure myself he was Ivan the Terrible. Maybe he was just your average Nazi,
your average
concentration
Nazi
camp
Jew
guard.
torturer.
Yeah, I
dude,
guess.
Come on, dude.
Yeah, you're right.
He still deserves
but
it. But
a small part of me, some people may disagree, but a small part of me thinks what else to be the one person, a lot of these people that were put in a bad spot, especially the Ukrainian men that were captured by the Nazis and forced to work in concentration camps. To me, part of me says, what would it take to be the one that, what would happen to you if you were the one that said, I'm not doing this? You would be killed yourself. So it was, I'd like to think I would just take that over killing a bunch of innocent people myself. I'd like to think I'd be that one, but.
Yeah. I hate to say it. I hate to say it, but I also could never relish in it. I couldn't bring myself to push a
that's
Jew
what I'm
with
saying.
a bayonet into something. Even if I was forced to do it at gunpoint, it was you do this or you die, and I had a family to support. If I was just me, I'd be like, well, I can't do it.
Right. That's my point.
Done.
If he was Ivan the Terrible,
100%,
100% fuck him. I would celebrate. I would dance on his grave fuck him. Yeah, and I'm not a Nazi sympathizer by any means. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, it was just a bad situation for many people back then.
This is a real conversation right here. There, in that situation, there's a lot. I'm not going to sit here and say every Nazi soldier enjoyed what they did. There's no fucking way.
Right.
There's no way. You know what I'm saying? There had to have been people who were just I have no choice.
Yeah.
It's like being drafted to join the U.S. Army. What are you going to do here? Right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you were drafted, if you were accepted in a draft to join the U.S. Army, guess what, buddy? You're a soldier.
Yeah, you're going.
That's it. Or you want to go to prison for the rest of your life.
And say you're fighting for a
At that
cause
time,
you don't
would have been
believe.
killed.
you get
Exactly.
there,
At that
and
time, you'd have been killed.
you have the brotherhood with the men you're alongside, and you're gonna fighting
Right.
fighting in Vietnam. Like a lot of the dudes just didn't want to be there. They didn't believe in the cause,
That's right.
but they did
But
they had
at
to
the
do their
same
duty. What
time,
they didn't they really didn't have another choice. You could
right.
draft
And at the
dodge, and
same
then you
time,
get put
they
in
knew
jail.
their families. They knew their families would be taken care of as well.
Yep.
At this time, because they're still getting paid to be part of this military. It's not the job they want, but it's better than being put to death or in
Right.
prison.
Exactly. Yeah, and so where we kind of got off track there was initially when he was convicted and sentenced to death, they were ecstatic, clapping, saying, "Fuck you, murderer," blah blah blah. You're gonna hang. And then fast forward a bit, he has his appeal. The new evidence is brought to light by the Berlin Wall falling and the KGB cooperating, and he's basically set free again. And he's basically being let go back to America, and nothing's going to happen to him. And the people of Israel are just,
That's right.
man, they were distraught, to say the least.
Sorry about that, Mr. Demjanjuk. See you at church on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. And even his defense attorney,
Oh, it's so creepy.
just walking around in the public in Israel, he went to the whose funeral did he go to? There was that's right.
I don't know. It was a Jewish
Well, no,
funeral,
they brought
right?
remember they brought in another man before the appeal. They had gotten this powerful former judge to come and help the defense. And it was a big moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, ooh, this guy's going to help us win this appeal. And the man was
yeah.
a closet homosexual. And when he went over to Israel to help the defense win the appeal, he was he was basically kind of stalked and tormented a bit. There was people calling him and leaving messages and stuff.
That's an understatement, man. His whole family was being
Yeah,
threatened.
and because he was homosexual and that word had gotten out about that, and also he was defending what they thought was a murderous, evil man.
Well, I think the fact that he's homosexual was kind of always known, but they knew right away, hey, whoa, we already got this on him.
And now
so
he's
let's just
defending
hold this
Ivan the
over his
Terrible.
head.
Fuck him.
Right. It never was a problem until now.
And so 5 days before the appeal trial was supposed to start, he jumped out of a 30-story building and killed himself. And so the defense attorney the main defense attorney for John Demjanjuk attended his funeral, along with he was also beloved by many as well. He wasn't just fully hated. We can't just put that out there that all of Israel hated him. But many, hundreds, attended his funeral, and among them was John Demjanjuk's attorney, and he had acid thrown in his face by one of the Holocaust survivors that was at the trial, and almost went blind from it. And so that kind of gives you a little bit of a taste of how upset this country was that John Demjanjuk, who they believed was Ivan the Terrible, was set free during his appeal process.
Right, and they in large part blamed this man. Because it wasn't the defense side wasn't going too well until he took over.
Yeah, that's right. He actually fired his first American attorney.
He fired his first defense attorney. Yeah.
Which, I mean, the attorney,
That's right.
his first attorney was supposedly was better for writing wills and stuff, and not so much for he wasn't a great trial attorney. And so he was definitely better off. They made the right move firing him, I think. And that guy was interviewed a lot during it, and vehemently believed that he was not Ivan the Terrible.
Well, also, wouldn't it be better to have a Jewish attorney? Even if he is, the hated Jew. I mean, you ain't gonna get the top Jew. You know what I mean? You're gonna get the top Jew, and you're gonna have to be happy with it.
Right. Yeah. So, any resolution Demjanjuk and his family felt when his conviction in Israel was overturned soon disappeared, and that's where this docuseries took another spin. Is that you think dang, he got off on the appeal, he went back to America, and now he's just kind of go back into his quiet life, and he was already old, and it's going to be the end soon. But however, a year after he became a U.S. citizen again, you got to give the U.S. government a lot of credit for sticking with this. They were not going to let this Nazi concentration camp guard, who may or may not have been an evil, murderous man.
Right.
I mean, obviously played a part in that death machine over there. There's no doubt about that.
Right. You can't put a time limit on those crimes, and by not prosecuting him, you say that you can. you say, oh, well, that's in the past. And also you have similar political mindsets, so we'll forgive that.
So the U.S. government got involved again. They restarted the process of denaturalizing him over charges that he had served as a guard at other concentration camps. So they kind of gave up on the idea of him being Ivan the Terrible, and that's where the wheels got in motion again. They were like, we know he was at Sobibor. He was a Nazi concentration camp guard at Sobibor, where he definitely partook in the murders of thousands, if not millions, of Jewish people, innocent people. And
we just need to retitle these charges.
Let's just drop the whole Ivan thing, and let's get him as just a straight up man that took part in this evil death cog, as a cog in this death machine.
That's right.
And in 2002, his citizenship was revoked again, following the years of Demjanjuk fighting against the charges. And this is where I think was actually a brilliant move, because the whole time also his son-in-law had been defending him and is interviewed in this docuseries. And his son-in-law, I think, pulled a pretty smart move when they found out that now the U.S. government was coming after him again. And I think they came up with this game plan to make him look like he was just on death's door, because when the footage of him being wheeled out, like mouth open, like looked like he was dead already, and put into a paramedic wagon to basically go to court for this.
Right. So sometime in between where he was cleared on that appeal, and then
a year later, right? A year later,
2002, his son-in-law became one hell of a lawyer. Like, that dude was doing some damn research. Like, what is his motive here? He must really like his daughter. He's really trying to get that blessing or something. Maybe he's like, I'll never give you my blessing. I'll get you free, I promise, Mr. D. But
Mr. D, you did call him that.
I don't know. I'm like, why is he so devoted to this man?
I don't know.
Like,
He just truly believed in his innocence,
so hard
I
for
guess.
his father-in-law, I guess so, man. But he became one hell of a lawyer. Right towards
they made
the
him
end
look
there.
like over that year, like John Demjanjuk had just basically fallen apart physically and was on the verge of death, and flying him over, into Europe again. Now they were going to fly him to Germany to face charges as a former Nazi guard, and
well, as calm as he looked, that took a toll
no
on
doubt.
him. Stress-wise.
But man, they made him look like decrepit, like he was just bedridden and couldn't move. And however, the OSI had been watching him. They'd been stalking him, and so like they'd caught footage of him like the previous week, walking in and out, getting out of the car, walking into like a doctor's appointment, coming back out, getting in the car. They knew damn well he was playing this up, and the whole defense by the son-in-law was basically saying putting him on a plane to Germany would be equivalent to torture for this old man who is in such bad shape physically. However, the U.S. government wasn't buying it. They sent him over to Germany in 2009, and in Germany, Demjanjuk stood trial on charges that he had aided the Nazis in killing Jews at the Sobibor death camp in 1943. By this point, Demjanjuk's family claimed he was too old and sick to continue with the process, but doctors cleared him for trial. They're like, you're fine, bitch.
They're like, nah, he's good.
At the trial, prosecutors said Demjanjuk's job at Sobibor was to lead Jews to the gas chambers to be killed. Included in their evidence was an ID card showing that Demjanjuk was transferred from the Nazi training camp Treblinka to Sobibor in March 1943. At that point, Germany had decided to try a new strategy in its pursuit of justice against Nazi war criminals, looking not only for evidence of specific killings, but also for evidence that the person had been part of the process in mass killings, which he definitely was. Several former inmates of Sobibor gave evidence in the trial, but it by then was difficult to find living witnesses who could link him to specific deaths. Demjanjuk was eventually convicted of being an accessory to the murder of 27,900 Jews at Sobibor. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison with credit for the time he had already served. And in 2012, at the age of 91, while his final appeal against the conviction was pending, he died. So he died behind bars. Never got out. So that last sentence essentially was a life sentence for a man of his age that had already been through all the stuff that he'd been through and taken part. That wasn't.
But they still couldn't give him life. I mean, damn, 5 years. You couldn't give him. I mean, it
was that whole conversation we had. They couldn't.
I'm surprised that bastard didn't hang on.
It was that whole conversation we had earlier about if you were a cog in the machine and you weren't going above and beyond like Ivan the Terrible, what should be done to you after the war ends, like how willing were you of a participant, or were you just going along just so you weren't killed yourself or so that your family wasn't killed?
Right.
Like, I don't know, man. I'm trying so hard not to sound like a Nazi
understand.
sympathizer. I'm the furthest
You
thing from it,
can't-
but
Listen, you couldn't be a guard and be like crying as you're leading
Yeah.
Jews to the chamber, being like, "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." You really think they're just gonna fucking probably shoot
Right.
you on the spot? Be like, just push you in
many,
there as well.
many people
So-
in,
so I
in the
get that
past
point,
have
but
taken
still,
part in
man.
things evil things that they didn't want to take part in, but they had no other choice. Like if he was just your average Nazi guard at one of these camps, it's just hard to tell what his behavior was. We don't have any evidence that he was doing anything different than you can't treat him differently than the other Nazi guards. They basically treated him with the standard process of former Nazi concentration camp guard.
But his name was Ivan, and he had the
I know.
Machinka, and he has.
I know. There's
the
so much
Demjanjuk,
evidence, like circumstantial shit that does point to him being Ivan the Terrible.
and his eyes are soulless,
are.
bro. Look at that. Why do you think he wore those glasses
They
the
are.
whole time? He wore those those serial
They
killer
are.
glasses, but they weren't serial killer
And he
glasses
did
at
some
that time,
weird
but they are now, which is
sociopathic things,
ironically-
like when he first was brought over to Israel to stand trial, and when he got off the plane, remember, he was like, "Can I kiss the ground of the Holy Land?" It's like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? Are you like trying to troll them? What is this? Are you trying to prove your innocence? What?
Dude, and then he was like putting his hands up
Yeah.
and shaking them, doing
Like,
the,
you're not
know,
Jewish, dude. This
hands
isn't your
clasped.
Holy Land. Like,
Stop. Yeah.
you were a fucking Nazi. Like, what is this?
But he's thinking he's from a Christian sect, so all Christian sections of religions see Israel as the Holy Land, even though they're
okay.
not Jewish. It's this whole thing. So he was trying to say like, oh, I'm a good Christian man. I'm so involved in my church, and
Right.
he was trying to act overwhelmed, I guess, to be there, even in this situation, and he's a good
Yeah.
actor. He's a good actor, dude. He's been acting for a long
doubt.
time. And if he did the shit that he did, he would have to be on his best behavior. It's like everything good they told me about him, I was just like, yep, that's what you should do. That's the only way to get away with this. Yep, I would have done
Yeah.
that too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
You're just-
duh.
hey.
Of course you would live a quiet life in a plant where you're just a number, and then
I
in the
do love the
suburbs
idea
and
that
never-
it's like he lived a normal life for 30 years, but like he had to have in the back of his mind, like when they might come and get me for what I did, for what I took part in, and they fucking did. Like if he had any like little thoughts in the back of his head about that, there was clout to
Yeah,
it.
I hope it
he
tortured him.
really, I love that moment. Kind of like, man, it really reminds me of I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara, about
Yeah,
Eurons, about how like, he got away with it for so long, but like in the back of his mind, he knew that, someday his day might come. The door might be knocked on, and you'll have to answer for what you
That's
did.
right.
And that's what happened with Demjanjuk, whether he was Ivan the Terrible or not. What he did over there, the things he took part in were terrible, and he paid for it in the
Yeah,
end.
but damn, he lived.
I know,
to
and he got 30
91.
years of bliss as a
Damn, he lived a
family
full
man,
life.
and living a quiet life in Ohio.
Buddy.
But I do love that in the end, he died in prison, and many of his golden years, his retired years after working 30 years in a car factory, many of his golden years were spent in court on trial, listening. For a while, he was being trotted into court and had to listen to the stories of what he took part in and what the horrible things that these people went through. I think that was a great form of punishment in itself was him sitting there and having to listen to that, and see the pain that he took part in and caused.
I don't think it bothered him.
I hope it did.
I think this whole story is one big like compressed almost sneeze.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like nothing fucking happened. Nobody got justice.
And the way that it really fully ended, it proves your point in that it really was kind of like much to do about nothing in the end, because even as there had been no ultimate conviction, Demjanjuk was presumed to be innocent when he died because he was still he basically was still pending an appeal in Germany. And so if that last appeal had gone down and he'd been denied and then he died, then he would go down on the books as guilty for war
Presumed
crimes.
to be innocent.
But he's still presumed innocent officially. But I mean, we all know.
Right.
But at the same time,
Right.
for the Jewish people who survived that and the families of them, it's not, that's pretty fucked up that nothing, this man's name is still kind of cleared in a way.
Yeah, and he didn't really get punished, in my
No.
opinion. I mean, he spent a little time behind bars, but I'm sure that wasn't bad. It was probably in,
Where
it was cush,
that's
well
where
protected,
that's where all you can do
isolation.
is hope that there is something after life that kind of judges you and for the life you lived, and maybe if there is, I mean, he was like you said, a religious man, so the ultimate judgment came after, as far as his beliefs, and many religious people, the judgment came after his death in prison, and that's
Right. Yeah, but I mean, in the Christian faith, if you repent, you're good. He's good to go. If he was living the Christian life
But
that he
did he
says,
repent
and
because he
Christians
just
are
stood
right.
vehemently saying his innocence? So I mean,
Oh, he doesn't have to repent in public. Well, he can repent to Jesus. Okay? Get with it, buddy. He done punched his ticket
this is
to
kind of like
heaven.
my church. We do this podcast on Sunday mornings, and you continually teach me up on how this works. I love it. Going to the church
I'm
at
glad to do
TCG
so,
on
man.
Sunday
It's-
mornings, baby.
That's right, TCG. Oh, crap. You better be careful. We really will be doing some cult shit.
Come on, guys, drink the Flavor Aid. Let's do this.
It's flavored. It's true crime
Right.
pine flavored.
Oh man! All right, well that about does it.
Speaking of true
Yeah.
crime pine, though, want to do some sponsors, or what were you going to say? Did you
No,
need
I'm
to
saying let's
something
wrap
up?
this episode up. We hope you guys enjoyed it.
Oh.
The Devil Next Door, phenomenal docuseries on Netflix. Their Netflix originals are killing it, man.
They are. Yeah, some people are like, Netflix is bankrupt. Netflix is going. I don't
Look, I
think
get
they're
it. The
going
Disney
nowhere.
fucking
'Cause they
streaming
putting out
shit
some
came out, but
quality
Netflix
stuff.
still has good stuff, man. Don't jump ship. You'll be back on it. It's gonna be like Facebook. You're gonna,
got both.
fuck Facebook, I'm quitting, and then 3 months later you're back on it.
Well, look. Well, here's the thing, though. If you're already paying for Hulu, you might as well get Disney Plus, because you can get Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus for like $12
And
bucks
use
a
code
month.
word Michael for
So
10% off.
if
You sound like
if you
you're
don't know,
advertising this shit.
if you don't know, now you're in the know. I feel like people should know, man. I just heard by word of mouth, and I was like, say what?
And would you be interested in phone
already got
services
Hulu.
with us as well? Because you could actually get a discount with that.
Right?
Do you
We
have a
actually
landline in your
pay
house?
You to take a home phone now, dude. I'm like, why are y'all
Right.
still trying to push home phones on me? Stop. Nobody wants them. Do y'all just have like a surplus of those little fucking plastic boxes where you
They
plug
have a
phone
warehouse
cables
filled
in?
with old
Like, we
fucking
gotta get
dial-up
rid of
phones.
these. Yeah, what is going on?
We'll send you 3 phones. Just sign
Nobody
service. Come on.
needs a home phone. We don't
How many
want
rooms
it.
does your house have? We'll send you one for every room and the bathrooms.
Right? We'll throw in a couple LED TVs. What do you want from us?
All right.
Where the stupid little thing will come up and tell you who's calling right in the middle of your damn show when you don't give a shit because it's just a telemarketer because nobody has your home
Exactly.
phone. All right, I'm
Michael,
done
why
with
do
the
my
rant.
pits smell so damn good?
Oh my Gaia. Probably because Oh my Gaia is in them. Well, at least it
How
better
the
be,
hell did
Lauren,
you know?
Or this advertisement is not going to be very effective. How did I know? Because we only use Oh my Gaia. Oh my Gaia is an innovative all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while maintaining effectiveness. At Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural, paraben, and aluminum-free organic ingredients. Guys, there's a ton of scents to choose from, like we alluded to earlier. Our own scent, True Crime
Have you
Pine,
tried the Sailor yet?
is available all the time. Dude, I'm
Sailor's
wearing it
awesome,
now.
right? It's my new favorite.
I love it. You know what I like about living across the country from you? I can also have Sailor as a favorite, and it's not weird.
I never thought it was weird, but whatever,
You know?
man.
Nope. Well, I mean, if we go somewhere together, we don't want to smell
That's
the
true.
same.
We have our own flavors.
You know what I mean? Right. But see, over here, I'm the Sailor flavor over here on the East Coast. You're holding it down with the
Savor
Sailor
flavor?
on the West. Sailor flavor. You know
Flavor
what I'm
Saver
saying.
is my beard, and I use beard oil in that as well.
Sailor. Can we get a Flavor Saver deodorant? Sounds good. People are trying it. I saw somebody on the clothes group. He said he tried it. Not so good, but it smells amazing.
Tried what?
So,
On his beard.
deodorant. I think that might have been my fault because I said that it's so organic you can eat it. But
Yeah,
don't.
I mean, it might.
in one
Yeah,
of the ads.
you might have like a little film.
Yeah,
in your
don't eat
beard
it.
if you use the deodorant there. You know, you need to use the oil. The oil you want to oil your
Yeah.
beard up, man. You
You
want the
want the
shininess.
beard oil in the deodorant. Right. Okay, we're really stretching this out. Guys, there's a ton of scents. Vanilla, cherry, almond wood, sandalwood, lavender,
Most importantly,
lemon,
True Crime
grass,
Pine.
Egyptian musk, and True Crime Pine, of course, like we said. And guys, because you're creepers, you can use the word creeper, CREEPER, for 15% off at ohmygaia.com. That's OHMYGAIA.com or at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram.
Yeah.
Woo! All right.
So we need to
Thank
also
you,
shout
Wendy.
out people who have taken the time to go write and review on iTunes and Stitcher and all that stuff. We thank you guys so much. That goes a long way as far as helping the show.
Absolutely. It's the best way to help the
no
show.
doubt. So I'm trying to pull those up right now. If you can fill time somehow,
All
or
right.
we can.
Sure. I've been reading some of the reviews. I really like reading the reviews lately. There've been a lot of fire emojis. I
Oh yeah,
noticed.
the fire emojis are rolling in.
Yeah, we've been getting some UK reviews lately.
Yeah, that's cool too.
Pretty
all
cool.
right, all right,
Our,
fellas.
listeners
Thank you
from
very
across the
much.
pond.
We do
Forgotten
fucking
about you
appreciate
lads
it,
over
mate.
there. A
Yeah,
little bit
definitely.
Australian. Oh, we're going.
Well, we get
Australia
some from
again. We
Australia
always
too.
do that.
We get
God
some
dang
from
it.
Australia.
Oh yeah, yeah. Australia's pretty good. A lot of Australians don't like how we talk over each other.
Fuck
But,
off.
You know, it is what it is. Yeah, fuck. Fuck off down under. No,
All right, I think I found
but,
him.
you know,
I think
it
I found
happens.
him. I may do a couple
Okay,
of
cool.
repeats because I don't know exactly where we left off. But hey, if you get a double down shout out, good for you.
Did you check the freeloader app? Because I did some.
Oh,
on
you
the
did?
Freeloader app.
Oh no,
Yeah.
well you bastard.
What reviews are you looking at? Let me see
Let's
what you got going on.
Then
here.
okay, so November 20th would have been when you released that.
Okay. This is
It
quality
is, man.
podcasting.
I think the people love.
Yeah.
I think
This
I think
is
they
real
love
stuff
this.
here.
All right, I'll start
looking it
here.
up.
Jaboyette said love the show.
Oh, I said I
What
already
about-
gave him a shout
what-
out, but that's
what
cool.
about
Did your boy
Lev
yet?
08?
No. I don't think
He
so.
said awesome podcast. 2 thumbs up. Favorite was Pablo Escobar. Right on. K Mag said love y'all. Keep creeping. Thank you. Marty Party. Hell yeah. Said if you like My Favorite Murder, listen to these guys. Hell yeah, they're great too.
Cool. Yes.
Gingerbread Man 22 said it's like crack. Binged every episode. You guys are hilarious. Thank you. And T Cole, thank you. Said very entertaining. Been binge listening. We do recommend binge listening. If you're a
Nice.
new listener, binge them all.
Yeah. Binge listening is the best. Don't listen to one where we talked for 20 minutes before we got to the story.
Yeah,
and
don't
then
go
you're
writing
like,
bad reviews
"Hey,
because we did all the ads and talking and stuff in the beginning.
Stuff at the
Yeah,
beginning?
yeah.
Rookie mistakes.
Yeah, we've
rookie
learned.
mistakes.
We've
You
adapted.
know,
We've evolved.
I had somebody hit me up on Facebook, and they wanted to know if we could release the old True Crime Las Vegas eps.
Yep.
Remember those? The 4
Yeah,
that we
they were
did?
shit.
And I was like, nah, I
They were
don't
shit.
think we're going to do that.
We were still learning, guys.
I was like, we were still learning, and we said some things
Personal stuff.
that, in my opinion, were personal, but also maybe insensitive. Just because we were kind of getting our bearings on this whole thing, and we were, at least I was for sure. I was nervous. You know what I mean? I didn't know what should be said, what shouldn't be said. I wasn't, and still am not a very eloquent speaker, so I don't really want to put those out there. And plus, there are people. Those cases were very local.
Yeah, we
at that
decided
time.
we
They
didn't
were all
want to shit
from
where we ate
Vegas.
anymore.
They
That's
were-
why we started going worldwide crime.
Yeah, yeah. Let's shit on people in Chicago or something. They have lots of murder.
Yeah. Go eat some hoagies.
Just get you a pizza pie where you put the sauce on top
Yeah,
of
hoagies
everything.
are more
What the
like
fuck are y'all
Philadelphia,
doing in
right?
Chicago.
Eat some hoagies.
Yeah, yeah. But why do Chicago pizza? Why
Bro,
do
that's not
Chicagoans do
fucking
that?
pizza. That's a bread bowl with some fucking soup in it.
Thank you. Stop putting the sauce on top.
That's
Nobody
tomato
wants that
soup
like that.
in a bread bowl. That's not pizza.
Ugh.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Gross.
New York.
It's gross.
New York does
Just
it
stop
right.
doing it, people.
New York.
Pizza all the way.
I mean, I guess I've never been there, but our imitation New York pizza in Vegas is the best kind.
Now you got some pretty good because they're New Yorkers. You got some good. That's what you have to do. You got to find the Italians or the New
Right.
Yorkers or both that opened up a little pizza shop. We got one here in my town. It's called Enzo's.
Enzo.
Love
Hey,
that little
Enzo.
place, dude. It's like a little hole in the wall.
You know, it's good when you walk in and they're
That's
kind of
all it
rude.
is, bro.
You know you got the right place. They're kind of like, what do you want?
Yes.
And you're like,
yeah, the
oh,
lady
fuck.
that works there. Yeah,
It's like the soup
the
Nazi.
lady's like, sit down. I'll be right there. I love that because I'm like, damn, if you're that rude and you're staying in business, this food
No
must be
pizza for you.
bomb. Like, give me some.
Come back,
like,
one of
come
you.
on, please. I'll pay double. You just want to eat it. The more rude they are, the more you want to be there. You know that food's good.
All right, are we done?
But, all right.
Are we fucking done?
I think we're done. I think we're done here. We got to watch some football, dude. I got to watch my Panthers
Bro,
get their
what
ass whooped
happened?
again.
The 49ers just
season's
ruined
going.
Kyle Allen's career. Apparently, he's been
did.
garbage ever since that game.
I can't believe he took
I'm
that
saying
loss
this.
so bad. I wouldn't
I'm
have
saying
taken
these
it
things. You know why, right? I'm now that we beat you guys, I'm cool with you guys winning again. So I'm saying you guys.
Oh.
Kyle Allen's he's gonna suck now. So he's trash.
garbage. He's garbage. Yeah, but I feel more confident about going up against those Saints after I seen what the Falcons did. But the
Dirty
Falcons are
Birds,
weird,
they got
dude.
hot,
In
bro. That
conference,
is weird.
In conference, they're always like that. Like they can be going like 0-13 when you meet them for the first time, and we're still worried in Carolina. We're like, oh shit, we played
Dude, the Cardinals for us, the 49ers, we had 2 games we easily could have lost against the Cardinals, and they're just not very good. But man, they play as hard.
I'm telling you, it's like it's like their coach just has us or something.
They see
like,
it twice
I don't
a
know,
year.
he
Every
just
year, they know
understands.
what works for you and what works against you.
I guess so.
The divisional games.
Yeah, I mean the Falcons, they're going to get some of them conference wins, boy.
Dirty Birds down in Hotlanta.
Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Most of our fans don't even give a shit about this.
But hey, this is kind of like bonus material at the end of the show. Whatever. I'm stretching.
That's
you can
right.
listen
We're
to
just
that.
hanging out, we're talking, catching up.
All right, keep creeping, guys. See you next week.
Dude, that's a good stretch. All right,
Later.
keep creeping, guys.
True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder. True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder charming.